Oh, of course.
Hey everyone, welcome to our first Flutter Atlanta live stream. Please bear with us if anything goes wrong. This is our first time doing a live stream. I just want to thank everyone that's here in person for coming out in person and warn you that we are using the really good Logitech Puck mics above your head. So if you whisper at all or say pretty much anything, everyone on the live stream will hear you. So don't say anything you would regret. Again, welcome to Flutter Atlanta. We are currently my name is Emmett Deen. I am the lead Flutter developer at Black Airplane. I have a background in native Android and iOS development, and I've been using Flutter for over 2 years. We've published over 7 different Flutter apps, and I love Flutter so much that I'm using it for my own startup. I want to say a quick thank you to Black Airplane for the food, beer, and Flutter. We have a special team here that produces top quality work and is capable of producing extremely complex software. And it's home to Flutter Atlanta and other meetups. We also do some Laravel and other backend meetups here. So today we're going to be talking about Codemagic, and specifically the kind of Codemagic setup that we have here. I'll walk you through a little bit of the software and show you how easy it is to set up, which was great for our team, and kind of go over the advantages. So really, just so everyone's on the same page, what is CI/CD and why do you need it? CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery or deployment. And CI/CD is a system that helps save developers time by automatically running tests, enforcing code styles, building applications, delivering builds to testers, and deploying builds to live environments. It's especially important in mobile development due to long build times and complex deployment systems. So every CI/CD setup is going to be different and unique to the different size of the team. Pipelines are the different workflows that are created to run different actions at different points in the development lifecycle. Some examples that we use here are a testing workflow, a staging workflow, and a production workflow. Here, and most of the examples that I'm going to be talking about are going to be based around the Git flow management system. So this is a very popular Git system where you can have a main branch, which is going to contain all of your releases, the develop branch, which is going to be the most up-to-date merged in code, and then all of the developers break off into feature branches to do their individual work. So next, why are we talking about Codemagic? So Codemagic was the first purpose-built hosted Flutter CI/CD provider. It has an amazing user interface for those that are just now learning about CI/CD. And it also has support for more traditional YAML file setup, so if you're coming from any sort of Git actions, this will feel very familiar to you. It has excellent ease of setup for mobile app distribution. It has multiple different bulk build machine options, great integrations with common beta distribution tools and GitHub and GitLab. It has a generous free tier for personal projects if you want to learn, and they've invested very heavily in the Flutter community. We also have a little clip that I'm going to play at the end after I walk you guys through kind of what the software looks like from the CEO of Codemagic himself. He actually reached out to us and said he thinks it was awesome about the Flutter meetup and wanted to answer some questions, so we sent him over about 6 questions and he answered them in his own words for us in a little video. So heading over to Codemagic, the first thing you're going to do is link up your GitHub account, and it's automatically going to allow you to pick from any of your projects. Here, I'm just using the Flutter Developer Atlanta website because it's a great example, and I have here a demo workflow setup. And today, I'm just going to be showing you the user interface because it's so easy to set up, and if you're working on any Flutter project at home right now, you should do this even if you're a solo developer because it's going to save you time, and their free tier you're probably never going to hit as an individual. So right away, you'll notice that you can select which build platforms you would like to build for, or you can run tests only. And some of these are still in beta because they're actually in beta in Flutter still, but they have full support for Android, iOS, and Windows. So when you select run tests only, you'll actually see down in the tests section that you can do static code analysis, which is something that we always have set up on our CI/CD to enforce all of the Dart linting styles. So this is basically going to ensure that the code is uniform and everybody is adhering to the programming standards set by the team. You can also run your various integration and unit tests, which is something we're probably going to dig into more in a later Flutter meetup. Flutter has 3 different levels of testing built into their test suite, which are unit tests, widget tests, and integration tests. So depending on your team, it's very capable to scale up. If you get to the point where you do have integration tests and they have to be running on simulators, Codemagic also does have support to use something like an AWS device farm where it can spin up all the different simulators and run all the tests automatically for you. Heading back up to the top, you have different build triggers which you can set up based on push, pull requests. You can make sure that it cancels outdated ones if you're updating something real time, and you can automatically put in all of your GitHub patterns for the different branches that you want it to watch, and it'll automatically run for you. If you're on a team setting, you can also do scheduled builds. So if your team prefers something like nightly builds or weekly builds, there will be a tab here that allows you to very easily set up a cron schedule. And overall, the flexibility is fantastic. It integrates very easily into GitLab and GitHub. So when you're looking at a pull request, wondering if it passed all the tests, it will actually show up as a check mark, just as like a GitHub pass pipeline would. So it's pretty much a native integration into those platforms. You also get some other options like environment variables. This is often used with things like Firebase tokens if you need to be able to access Firebase CLI tools. All of their build machines come with tools like that built in. So you have Firebase CLI tools, which allows you to deploy to Firebase hosting if it's a web app, Firebase App Distribution, or also get config files and edit this if you need to with the environment variables. You can also do some dependency caching. As we all know, building a mobile application for Android and iOS at the same time takes quite a lot of time, and a lot of that has to do with downloading the different dependencies and making sure they're correct for your app to build. So if you're confident that you have the right dependencies or you're not going to be changing them often, you can opt to cache those to try and speed up the development or the CI/CD time a little bit. So that's what it's going to look like if you're running just tests. Now, if we uncheck this and check Android and iOS, then you're going to get some more options. All of these different plus sections, what these allow you to do are actually add custom scripts between each individual step. So, for example, we use some code generation on our Flutter projects that automatically generates different JSON serializable objects. So the code that allows us to take a data model and convert it to JSON or from JSON, we use automatic code generation to do that. And none of that code is actually checked into our repository. So we run a script here before we run testing that automatically generates that. That ensures that it's always going to be up to date with whatever code is checked into the repository. You can opt to do tests on your build as well, and assuming that those pass, or if you didn't decide to run tests on your official build, you get into your build settings. So they have all kinds of different options here. If you're building for iOS, you also have to be on a Mac machine. So they have two different options for Mac machines. They have Mac Minis, which are going to be cheaper, and then they have Mac Pros, which are going to pay a little bit more of a tax for a faster build time. Traditionally, those are about 2 times faster build time, but about 2.5 times more expensive, so it is more cost effective to just use the Mac Minis. You can choose from the various different Flutter versions because they're always updating. Flutter is a very fast-moving framework. It's something you have to consider. Typically, we just leave this on stable. That's what's considered to be production right now. Depending on your Xcode dependencies, you may also need to finagle the Xcode version. A lot of times, Xcode will get updated and dependencies lag behind. So it's important to be able to have this option here. The same with CocoaPods. Also now on Google Play, they've been requiring you to upload app bundles. So you can actually have the option here if you want to do just the app bundle, just the APK, or both. The reason you would want an APK still is a lot of beta distribution systems still require an APK. They haven't been updated to use app bundles. Flutter build IPA is something that they recommend. This is a new command that you can just run from the Flutter terminal, and it'll actually build your IPA for you without having to open the project in Xcode and run a traditional archive. This is a little bit more performant and can save some time. You also have various build arguments and, of course, your different modes. These arguments are pretty important because Flutter has support for different flavors, so you might have different production environments inside these. And also, a great example that I had when working with this on my startup was I had a Flutter web project, and I had been using certain dependencies that only worked with one of the two supported Flutter web renderers. So you have a GL style renderer for Flutter web and also an HTML style renderer for Flutter web. And when Flutter web was early release, all the dependencies didn't quite support both. Some had rendering issues with those. So I had to opt to choose just one that worked for all the dependencies I was using. Where Codemagic really gets special is in the distribution section. Something that is as equally as complicated as building apps is trying to distribute them. So it has two very nice options for hooking up your Android deployment and iOS deployment. You can either just directly connect your Apple Connect account and it can upload it for you through that, so it makes that integration really nice, one click, don't have to worry about it again. Or if you're on a lot of projects, you can upload your own custom provisioning profiles and distribution certificates, and then it can go off of that. So as you can see here, you can either upload your key store for Android code signing and it'll handle all of this for you here. You can also opt to do that if you have private repositories or another way. You just need to get it into the CI/CD in some form. So you can still do custom signing if you like. Here's the automatic code signing, so it can automatically detect which of your teams you have the capability to sign with the connected account, or you can opt for manual and upload those custom certificates. Something that I've been a big fan of here, and they recently added it, is Firebase App Distribution. It's very hard to build an app completely without Firebase these days. Their suite of tools is just so comprehensive between push notifications, authentication, database support, remote config. You're pretty much going to be using it for something. And we've found that using Firebase App Distribution to get our clients beta builds has been extremely helpful. You don't have to worry about Android pre-release tracks and iOS test flight. You can have all of your beta builds in one place and get distributed from one place, and it's a fairly easy sign-up process for your clients. It's always going to be difficult to get an unsigned, officially published app onto somebody's iPhone. Apple's very strict about that, but they're able to go through a couple-step process to download a certificate that allows us to run beta apps on their phone through Firebase App Distribution. You also have notifications here, so they have both Slack integration and email integration. I anticipate this is something they will add more of very soon, but yeah, it's pretty much just there. It can alert you every time a build happens, and whether it was successful or not. It can also publish all of the build artifacts right into Slack and email them to you if you like. They also have some options for distributing it to a Codemagic static site. So if you want your all of your artifacts to be public for your team, you can actually check this box for making builds public, and you can just send that URL to whoever needs them and they can download them. Just like other CI/CD options, you also get your badge that you can add to your GitHub repository, so you always know what the latest build, how it performed, and you also have max build duration. And this can be pretty important. So they have it by default set to 60 minutes, but on the larger applications that I have built, which were built for Android, iOS, and web, it was not uncommon for a Mac Mini to take 90 minutes and up. So it's important to make sure you give enough time for your build to go through and 100% complete without giving it so much time that it can just spin if something went wrong or a script just misran. So that is pretty much Codemagic CI/CD in a nutshell, and as you can see, it's a nice user interface, step-by-step process where even somebody that's not super familiar with CI/CD could go in and set up. Typically here we have 3 different workflows. We have the testing workflow, which we force to complete successfully before we merge in any pull requests into our develop branch, and all that does is run tests. Once it's merged into the develop branch, we run another automated workflow which deploys that current build to staging, so our clients can always go to a staging server or download a staging build and have the most up-to-date version of the code. And then we normally have a production workflow, which would normally be created when we create a release branch in our Git flow model, and then it'll automatically upload those builds to both Android's Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. So, like I mentioned earlier in the slides, we were lucky enough to have the CEO of Codemagic and the creator of Codemagic to answer a couple questions for us. So he actually sent us over a video that's just a couple minutes of him answering it. He is a surprisingly young guy, and awesome that he just took the time to do this for us. So I'll turn it over to him.
Hello, Flutter Atlanta. This is Martin from Codemagic team. I hope you have had or have a great meetup. I reached out to Brandon to see if there's something I can do to help you guys or contribute. And we came up with an idea about answering questions. So here are some questions, and this is me answering them. First question, is any portion of Codemagic or Nevercode built with Flutter? No, Codemagic is built on React, not Flutter, unfortunately. We did have an app called TestMagic, which was built with Flutter, but it got discontinued. Second question, you said that you like this GUI setup that we have for Firebase App Distribution, and will Firebase hosting be added soon for Flutter web builds? Makes me happy that we're building features people like. That is also always good to hear. Currently, we don't have plans on Flutter or this Firebase hosting, but we have Firebase CLI tools available on our virtual machines, so that if you want to deploy to Firebase hosting, then you can do that with some scripts. I'll share a link to a blog article that can help you along the way. Next question. Building for iOS, Android, and web take a long time. Is there any instances when using a premium macOS premium VM will actually save you money on larger builds? On average, the faster machines can give you up to 2 times faster results. The price, however, is about 2.5 times more expensive. So it will cost more. However, Gradle, if you've been to any developer or this Android conference, they always talk about developer productivity and what is the ROI on that. If you search for Gradle ROI developer productivity calculator, you'll find something. But I would really think about, I think that developer salaries are much more significant than this cost involved with CI or any developer tool for that matter. So choice is yours. Next question. How often are virtual machines upgraded? Typically, we update our base images when there is a new Flutter version on the stable channel or a new Xcode version is released. Next question. Will Codemagic switch to the new M1 chip Max? Yes, we plan on doing it hopefully this year. I already have a name picked out as well. I don't want to give it out yet. Who is the ideal customer for Codemagic? I think this is the most trickiest question. So the way I think about our ideal customers is rather to think about which problems does Codemagic solve. And the customers can be many, and you can classify them with in very different ways. But what we have heard is that we are really, really good at this continuous distribution part, specifically related to iOS. So iOS code signing and shipping to the App Store. If you yourself managed Jenkins servers before or worked with Jenkins, then you probably know that it's really hard to keep Xcode versions up to date or different Xcode versions on the machines, updating Android SDKs, Flutter versions, and other DevOps related tasks. So having this hosted CI/CD that is really good for shipping iOS applications is something that we think we are best at solving. And there was a follow-up whether agencies, corporate teams, or solo developers are our ideal customers. And even though there are differences between all of them, like agencies, for example, have issues related to passing on the CI build to their customers. While customers are happy paying for developer hours, they may not be happy paying for CI bills, which is always interesting. And corporate teams have these compliance departments that they need to deal with, as with when they need to adopt a new tool. all of this can be solved if the teams themselves face a problem that needs a solution. I think the main thing is still which problems are we best at solving and how do we do that. So if you need a hosted CI/CD provider that is good at Mac OS, so code signing iOS apps, shipping them to the stores, and also dealing with this software updates on the hardware itself. What part of Nevercode Codemagic platform are you most proud of? I like everything, but my favorite cheap feature, I would say, is automatic iOS code signing. That I think has helped the most customers. I also really like our design and our kind of philosophy that we keep on trying new things and listening to our customers and the community. So if the community has ideas, then we really try to make it a reality. How has Nevercode Codemagic helped support and accelerate the growth of the Flutter community? Also a long answer, but I'll try to make it short. So we were the first dedicated CI/CD for Flutter when we launched, and this has helped a lot of developers. So what we did was we wrote a lot of content about some problems that people were facing. And if you didn't have a Mac computer, for example, then it was very difficult for you to ship iOS applications. So even though we don't recommend developing for iOS without a Mac, then you can still ship iOS applications without having a Mac computer. This is also a problem that we solved. Apart from that, we sponsor a lot of community events around the world, and I think if the meetup organizers have some funds to help or attract more people, then the Flutter community grows as well, thanks to that. Yes. So that was it. Thank you so much for listening and have a good one. Thanks.
Thank you so much again for sending in that video. Sorry to the people here, the TV was a little quiet. Hope you all heard it well online. We can always post the raw video to that if that is something you guys would like. Just let us know in the chat. But that concludes my presentation. So now I'm just looking to answer questions. If anybody online has a question, go ahead and answer it in the chat. I'll give you a couple moments to do that. Does anybody here have any questions about Codemagic?
Yeah, sure. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just curious, can you set up multiple workflows pretty easily where if you wanted to send something out just to Firebase beta distribution, you could do that off one branch automatically?
Yep, you can have as many different workflows for the single repository as you can.
You say it's the first purpose-built Flutter CI provider. Is it the most popular one, or are there others that are?
There are others, so I mean, you can even go and use GitHub Actions if you'd like now. Codemagic, from what I've heard, is pretty popular. I believe it is the most used, but I don't know the stats 100%. It is recommended by Flutter on their website, as well as they list some other options. And Codemagic has also, I believe, been to Flutter Interact and some of those other really large Flutter conferences and showcased there.
It's the only one you've used, though?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, if we have no questions online, thank you guys so much. Again, reminder, we are officially a part of the Flutter Meetup Network, which means we're going to get speakers content, digital assets, possibly some swag, Flutter Book Club, and also be a part of the Flutter Fest. You can scan that QR code if you like, and that can get you access to the Flutter Book Club. Also, Flutter Atlanta has a website. If you would like to check it out, go and scan that QR code. It'll take you to our website. The website's completely open source, hosted on GitHub, and 100% built with Flutter. So if you're just learning Flutter and you would like to practice somewhere, go ahead and add some features to the website, and I'll review anything that you guys submit. Next time, we are going to be talking about test-driven development, although there is a possible case that we'll be collaborating with some of the other Flutter meetup groups for one large event online. If that happens, we will update you guys and let you know. But tentatively, as of right now, we'll be talking about test-driven development with Flutter next time.
It'll be December 9th, too.
And it will be on December 9th. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for everyone that joined online. Hope you enjoyed it. If you guys have feedback, please be sure to let us know. Thank you.